Our pathetic high school had its own lovebird duo, student council president Inukami and Kazuki. Inukami glided through the halls like she owned the place, while Kazuki followed her around like a puppy, drooling excitedly that a girl was paying attention to him. Kazuki was down bad and thirsty for any female attention, but at least he had been blessed with a pretty face to lure the ladies in. The same could not be said for poor Usato, who was so ugly he didn't even get an opening scene in his own anime. But luckily for him, he was the protagonist, just your average, friendless, dateless student. The most exciting part of his day was finding some baby birds fallen from their nest onto the ground. Though an outcast, Usato was kind-hearted, so he gently returned the chicks to their nest and told them they could pay him back later. But then he realized he was earnestly chatting with featherballs and quickly retreated before seeming totally insane. Usato enviously watched the cool kids living their dramatic school lives, wishing he could join them, or at least have some friends so he didn't have to talk to wildlife all the time. As it was time to head home, Usato's luck took another nosedive when he got to his locker and found some jerk had stolen his umbrella. An umbrella sat alone. He fantasized about taking it and leaving another loser to the mercy of the rain. But he was tragically nice, so he decided to wait out the storm instead. He took a seat, accepting his soggy fate. He wished he could magically blow away the rain, but life was never that convenient. The rain seemed to take his comments personally, pouring down harder out of spite. Wondering what to do, Usato heard a voice. Inukami was somehow still at school hours after everyone else had left. Odd. She asked why he was still here. Inukami deduced he was stuck without an umbrella and said they needed to leave before the gates closed. Usato prepared to sprint through the rain, but Inukami objected. She couldn't let a student get drenched on her watch. But just then, Kazuki appeared with a spare umbrella. Inukami wondered how Kazuki knew Usato needed one. They were classmates. Though friendless, Usato was a nobody. Simple kindness was new to Usato. Kazuki said to relax. They were classmates after all. Seeing Kazuki befriend Usato, Inukami joined too. Walking home, Usato had assumed Kazuki was a ladies' man, but Kazuki shrugged that girls flocked to him, the burden of being so handsome. Usato's nerdy mind went right to video games, picturing this moment as a walking home with the two most popular kids in school. He almost ruined this marvelous moment by saying everyone in school would be jealous, but luckily they didn't hear his utterly embarrassing comment. On their little walk, Usato told Kazuki he didn't expect him to be so nice, since he only ever saw this playboy charming the ladies. Kazuki said he only talked to the girls out of pity, and Inukami roasted him by saying he liked talking to boys better anyway. Inukami was even more unapproachable for our shy protagonist, though, being top of the class in every subject and a total ace at sports. Usato put her on an even higher pedestal, gushing that she was beautiful inside and out. Usato went full gossip reporter, finally just asking if they were dating since it's all anyone at school talked about. That made things awkward between them for a moment, but they explained they only hung out because of student council duties. Usato apologized for asking such a nosy question that he definitely shouldn't have, but Inukami didn't mind since the rumors were worse. Their casual small talk continued, with the three chatting about life after graduation. Turns out none of these goobers had a plan yet. Inukami was already a senior and had a problem. She still hadn't found her passion and accomplished goals too quickly. Inukami, surprisingly, said she felt like she didn't belong in this world, which Usato related to. As they walked on, Kazuki and Inukami suddenly stopped, claiming they heard church bells. The sound was clear to them, but Usato didn't hear anything because he's being sidelined by the isekai forces. As he got closer to see that they were okay, he got sucked into a portal. Before they could even wrap their heads around what was happening, the magic circle suddenly zapped them right in front of a king in some royal palace. Kazuki was totally confused, Inukami was wet with excitement, and poor Usato got cut off mid-sentence. Inukami was practically dripping, beyond hyped to be in a real fantasy world. The king was like, "You've been summoned here to..." but gets cut off by Kazuki, who understandably wants to know what the heck is going on. A guard tells Kazuki to watch his mouth around the king, but the king's chill with it since he kinda kidnapped them without asking. He apologizes and is like, "Hear me out before you judge, okay?" The king introduces himself as King Lloyd of Linger Kingdom, and Inukami looks ready to hyperventilate. She's so thrilled. He explains they summoned them as heroes. The Demon Lord attacked, but they pushed him back for now. However, the problem is the Demon Lord is probably getting his evil army ready to stomp them into the ground. So they pulled out their bag of forbidden ancient magic tricks to summon some heroes capable of kicking the demon's butt before he kicks theirs. Kazuki's like, not my problem. He had a good life back home, so peace out. Go summon someone else. But the king says no takebacks on the summoning circle. Kazuki's ticked, but a guard points out he's outnumbered. The king kneels and swears he'll send them back soon, but pleads for their help in saving his kingdom first. Inukami's hyped and asks why he called them heroes. Lloyd's assistant says the summoning grabbed those with hidden potential. Hearing bells means it worked. Usato, an utterly talentless nobody, just got dragged there by accident. They take a magic aptitude test using glowing orbs. While Inukami goes, Kazuki asks Usato if he isn't mad about being yanked here randomly. But the king's been decent about it and said he'd send him back, and Usato might have some magic, so why not try? She is the first to be tested, and the color of the crystal indicates her affinity for thunder magic. As if that were not amazing enough, she also has a great deal of mana. Inukami could not be happier, and now it is Kazuki's turn. He barely touches the thing, and Welsi is amazed when the crystal turns white. It's light magic, and Inukami is certain that it means he can shoot laser beams from his eyes, or even better, he might be able to wield swords made of light. Usato points out that Kazuki is not like her and probably has no idea what she is talking about, but she scolds him for having a sharp tongue. Welsi explains that light magic is incredibly rare and few people can use it. Light repels evil, so its power is unparalleled against demons. The bar has been set pretty high by the first two, but now it's our protagonist's turn. Usato hopes that he will at least have the tiniest bit of power, as this humble kid just hopes to help Inukami and Kazuki any way he can. He is glad when his crystal actually changes color, and everyone thinks it's a soothing color. A look at Welsi, though, paints a totally different picture, as she is shocked by this color change and instantly drags Usato away without saying a single thing. Welsi urgently takes him to the king and explains that the other two have great abilities. However, she is there about something more important. The guards are shocked, and Welsi begins to finally say what that means. King Lloyd stops her, though, as he doesn't even want her to utter those words, and Usato begins to wonder if his magic affinity is really that bad. Our boy just has to remain confused, though, as the king quickly demands that Usato be taken away from the castle as quickly as possible. They try to think of the safest place to send him, and Usato wonders if he's really that dangerous. He asks if anyone else has the same magic, and there just so happens to be another person. It's a certain girl, but the king doesn't even want her name to be spoken. Unfortunately for King Coward, this girl barges in. Everyone is terrified beyond belief as we find out that her name is Rose, and she wants to know if the magical heroes have been summoned. The king was really hoping that she would take the day off, but Rose would never do such a thing. When she questions if Usato is a hero, King Lloyd explains he's nothing more than a nerd who accidentally got teleported there. This guy desperately tries to hide the truth and tells her that Usato is more ordinary than a bowl of oatmeal. Rose introduces herself to Usato as the captain of the kingdom's rescue team, but our boy feels that this angry chick is more like the type to take lives, not save them. Welsi might be a genius because she diffuses the situation and offers to take Rose to the real heroes in the crystal room. Unfortunately, Usato is an oblivious idiot who can't read the room. He blurts out to the king, demanding to know what his green crystal meant, while Rose is still within earshot. Everyone is terrified, dreading what's about to happen next. Usato confirms that his ball is green, and Rose tells the king that she will be borrowing the boy. The king decides that he must act quickly, and urgently tells Welsi to get Usato away from her. Welsi uses some kind of bubble magic to quickly get him out of there, but Rose instantly takes off after him. Welsi sends our poor guy sky high, but Rose is able to get to him almost immediately. She is crazy powerful as she destroys the bubble and rapidly captures Usato. From the courtyard, she declares to the king that she's taking Usato, though he needn't sweat it. She'll whip the boy into a proper healer with her tutelage. The king can only watch helplessly as Usato gets dragged off. Later, Inukami and Kazuki get the tragic news. They anxiously inquire if their friend's in mortal peril. Psychological trauma, however, is a sure thing. You see, green magic means healing power, super rare stuff. So Rose snatched Usato for training. The only problem is that her teaching techniques blatantly disregard the Geneva Convention. Usato learns his ability makes him a healer. That's why she brought him here. She summons the boys to meet Usato. In a flash, he's surrounded by 5 massive dudes who pin him to the wall. Rose kicks one and says not to scare Usato. She continues her explanation. These fellows are part of the rescue squad, though not true healers. 2 other healers are stationed elsewhere for now. So Rose takes on Usato's training personally. To put it mildly, our boy is royally boned. Nothing to do but sleep it off and see what fresh chaos awaits come morning. Upon waking, Usato finds he's still in this freaky world. Other squad members whipping up breakfast inform him of visitors. To his surprise, it's Inukami and Kazuki, checking in after hearing a green-haired lady snatched their buddy. Luckily, Usato's current condition proves he's not in serious peril. He says he's fine, then remembers Rose's training starts today. Thoroughly screwed remains accurate, since that brute of a woman will be his personal coach. He's still breathing now, but unlikely to survive tomorrow. The others ask if it's really that bad. From what Usato's heard, it is. But oddly enough, he seems chill about his fate. He's determined to survive the training, no matter how brutal. After all, it's the best use of his time and might make him less useless here. Inukami finds his words inspiring. She vows to do her best training too. Usato's mood lifts as they discuss dreams of cool hero training. The 2 heroes soon leave to return to training, and Usato thinks they're amazing for adjusting so quickly here. He hopes to become someone helpful in their battles one day. That's why he'll give this training everything, even if it kills him. Speaking of the devil, Rose startles Usato by asking if the heroes finally left. She tells him to relax. He's not a prisoner. He's free to chat with friends, just not during training. She hands Usato a diary to record his experiences. She says training starts after breakfast. He better prepare himself. Surprisingly, when training begins, it's not as bad as Usato expected. They're just learning magic basics, like feeling its flow in his body. Next, Rose tells him to read a huge book. The problem is, it's in a foreign language he can't understand. But Rose says to look at it before complaining. He opens the book and shockingly comprehends it, despite the unfamiliar language. Rose explains that there is a translation magic spell that has been cast on all of the summoned heroes. This book has a bunch of information about the demons and other races in this world, so she leaves him to do some studying. The first day of training seemed quite easy, so he was sure that he would be able to handle it. Day 2 of training is much more different than he expected. It's a lot of running, and he wonders if this is really what magic training is all about. On day 3, Usato is forced to run until his muscles are so sore that he can't move. He eventually collapses, but Rose wonders what he thinks he's taking a nap doing. Usato explains that his legs won't move anymore, but she gives him a good smack, and he's shocked to realize that she healed his sore muscles. Rose keeps the intensity up by calling our boy Mr. Couch Potato, and she commands him to continue running. She tells him to run like he's going to die, and she will revive him so he can keep running. Usato knows he can't tell her how crazy she sounds, so he plans to write, "This woman belongs in an insane asylum" in his journal. On day 4, Usato begins training with the other members, but he ends up falling behind them by an entire lap. Everyone trash talks him for falling behind, but he can't talk back to them, so he decides that he will have to write, "My fellow trainees are just as crazy as Rose" in his journal. Days 5 and 6 were more running, with Rose berating him. Usato's anger was building inside him, and he once again planned to give Rose a piece of "my very exhausted mind" in his journal. Just then, Usato is shocked to see the light of healing magic on his hand. Training is pretty tough, but not enough to need healing, so it goes away. On day 7, Usato ran until he thought he would die again, and Rose beat him up. She seems angrier than usual, so Usato wonders if she found out that he was dissing her in his journal. He realizes that she can't read Japanese, and wonders if she can just tell by the look on his face that he talked smack in his little diary. Rose launches him into the sky so he can start running again, and Usato vows to call her a crazy gorilla lady in his journal. Day 8 is more of the same, but on day 9, Usato realizes the need to heal himself. He is surprised to see that he managed to heal his entire body instead of just the part that hurt. Usato realizes that he was wrong about healing magic, and he in fact really does need it to survive this torture chamber. On day 10, Usato explains that he doesn't get tired anymore, no matter how much he runs, since he can now manifest healing magic on command. He eventually gets concerned, however, as all he has been doing is running. Usato questions if he will be able to help his friends at this rate, but he knows that Rose would just punch him right in his stupid face if he tried to voice his concerns to her. Rose is upset anyway and gives Usato another 30 laps to run. Usato decides in his mind to no longer call her Miss Rose, as she doesn't deserve any more than just being called She-Demon. On day 11, the training regimen gets a new addition, push-ups. Usato gets all the way up into the 800s, and Rose finally reveals why Usato is training this way. It's so he can run from his enemies as quickly as possible in battle. This way, he can save his injured allies. She explains that the faster he runs, the faster he can save them. On day 12, he ran until noon and then did push-ups into the night. On day 13, Rose caught on to the fact that Usato was starting to feel lighter, so she added weights. On day 14, Usato's lunch goes missing, and one of the meatheads admits to eating it. Usato loses his cool and finally strikes back. He has already gotten used to the weights, and he is finally starting to get the hang of training. A week later, Usato's friends come to visit him, and they're shocked to see just how much he has changed in such a short time. This kid is doing some really intense push-ups, and Rose is telling him not to whine about doing something so easy a baby could do it. Usato actually doesn't whine one bit, and even goes as far as to say that doing push-ups with her on his back is easy because she is so light. Rose is amused by his riz and tosses another stone on his back. Usato's extremely determined, so his body heals and he's able to complete the push-up. Rose is pleased with his progress and determines that she will be able to take him to a certain place sooner than she thought. As Kazuki and Inumaki watch the brutal training unfolding before them, Kazuki struggles to comprehend the cruelty Usato is forced to endure, while Inukami only has eyes for Usato's mouth-watering new muscles. The Knight Captain accompanying them, outraged by Rose's apparent attempt to break Usato's spirit, angrily berates her for subjecting a young man to such an ordeal. Though she could heal his injuries, the psychological damage would linger. However, Rose feels no remorse since her ruthless methods seem to be toughening up Usato, whom she plans to make her right-hand man. Usato protests that becoming Rose's flunky was never part of their arrangement. After declaring a lunch break, Rose dismisses Usato to socialize while she confers with Sigillus. Usato, Kazuki, Inukami, and Princess Celia, who have tagged along, chat under a tree. Usato learns that Sigillus, the mightiest knight in the kingdom, instructs Kazuki and Inumaki in swordsmanship. Pleasantries aside, Usato asks about the mystery girl, who introduces herself as Princess Celia of the Ollinger Kingdom. Realizing her status, Usato bows and apologizes for any disrespect. Celia insists on normal treatment and then shares pastries with the group. Kazuki asks if Usato's training is always so grueling. Usato confirms the horror, then inquires about his friend's regimen. Kazuki describes swordsmanship with Sigillus, followed by magic lessons with Welsi. At least their mental health is considered, unlike Usato's pulverized brain cells. But he's used to the pummeling by now. As Usato grabs another slice of pie, Inukami ogles his rock-hard abs unabashedly. Sensing the tension in the air, Usato changes topics and asks if Kazuki wants to discuss something. Kazuki admits he wondered if Usato was struggling here, which Usato confirms was horrendous initially. He had tried escaping Rose's swift clutches to no avail. Over time, though, adjusting to his new environment, Usato started considering this place home and even enjoying the training somewhat. Stubbornness aside, since he's no hero, Usato aims to assist in the battle against the demon army. Suddenly, the food thief from last week appears with Usato's lunch. Still holding a grudge, they trade blows, with Usato's healing ability giving him the edge. The others debate intervening in the tussle, which Kazuki deems unnecessary since Usato seems to be having fun. Knowing Usato is all right, Kazuki decides it's time to return to training. As they leave, Inukami reflects that Usato must be here for a reason alongside them, so they should all strive to better themselves. That night, after pummeling the thief and soaking in the bath, Usato is glad to have seen his friends, though Inukami's ogling unsettled him. He can't blame her taste. His body is awesome now. Thanks to his relentless training, Usato has become faster, stronger, and better overall. By constantly pushing his body to the limit and then healing with magic, his growth rate is unbelievable. Despite his insane muscle gains, Usato worries it may not be enough when battles arise. The next morning, Rose informs Usato that they will be going out, and the other guys seem worried that this day has come. A guard at the gate nearly wets himself, as Rose informs him that she wants to show her subordinate the fun and excitement of the great outdoors. He runs off to open the gate for her, and Usato thinks about how all she has to do is stand there to scare someone into a fresh change of undergarments. Outside the gate, Usato wants to know where they are going, but Rose tells him to keep his mouth shut and follow her like an obedient puppy. They eventually arrive at the forest known as the Darkness of Linger. It's infamous for being filled with monsters, and she shockingly tells Usato not to come back until he has hunted down a grand grizzly. Usato thinks there has been a misunderstanding, as he reminds her that blue grizzlies only turn into grand grizzlies after living for 100 years, which would make them smarter than most humans. The book he read even said that just the blue grizzlies are extremely dangerous and should be avoided at all costs. Rose explains that he should be able to take one down easily, but Usato points out that he has only been running this entire time and has no idea how to fight. Rose doesn't give a single word of explanation, though, and just launches him towards the forest like tossing table scraps to rabid dogs. Usato begins to fall from the sky, and he panics as he will surely not survive. However, just then, his body begins to glow with his healing magic. Usato finds the determination inside himself to survive no matter what, so he uses his healing magic to brace himself for the impact. Usato can't believe that he survived, and he heals himself so he can do what Rose told him. He won't be able to go back until he does, so he tries to have a don't-get-eaten attitude about it. He convinces himself that it shouldn't be too hard, since it's only a 2-meter-tall bear, but he is stunned when it appears behind him in all its drooling, snarling glory.